Hey everybody, it is that time of year. It is Christmas time.
Christmas.
I want to let everybody know right now, I am obsessed with Christmas. It is my absolute favorite time of the year. Every time it gets to December, I turn into a kid again. And one of my favorite parts about Christmas is getting to watch Christmas movies. So I thought this would be a perfect time to talk about my favorite Christmas movie. Before I get started, I just want to let everybody know that we have hit a milestone on this channel. Since my last upload, I have hit 100 subscribers. And at the time of this recording, I'm actually at 110 subscribers. So I just want to give each and every one of you who is subscribed a huge thank you. Like, your subscription means a lot to me. But 100 subscribers was just the start. I'm slowly making my way to being monetized. For me, that's like my next big goal. 1,000 subscribers. 100 subscribers was like my little mini goal. Now let's shoot for 1,000. Now back to the video. So, when people ask me what my favorite Christmas movie is, I usually give two answers. One is Die Hard. And I don't care what anyone says, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It takes place on Christmas Eve. It has Christmas music in it, and it makes tons of references to Christmas. So it is a Christmas movie by definition. However, I understand that the movie isn't really about Christmas. So it's not the kind of movie that people think of when they think of Christmas movies. So that's why I have a second answer. Die Hard is technically my favorite. I do like Die Hard a lot more than this other movie I'm going to talk about, but it's not about Christmas. So I kind of feel like I have to have another answer in my pocket when people ask me this question. This other movie that I'm going to talk about is actually about Christmas, and it's what you would typically describe as a Christmas movie. Now, this movie is a guilty pleasure of mine, but the movie I'm going to be talking about today is Fred Claus.
Fred Claus.
You sure you wouldn't be more comfortable down here on the bottom?
I don't think it's going to make much of a difference, Willie.
Now, hold on. Let me explain. You might not know about this movie. And if you do know about it, then you probably think it sucks. And yes, it's not a good movie, but I just find it so entertaining. That's why I say it's a guilty pleasure. It's a comfort watch for me. I like watching this movie every year around Christmas time. And I do think this movie does have some wholesome moments that I find touching. Okay, so funny enough, the day after I recorded this video, I discovered this podcast called A Cinematic Journey, hosted by Peter Billingsley, who you may know as Ralphie from A Christmas Story. And I found out that they recently had an episode where they talked about Fred Claus, and they had the director and Vince Vaughn on to talk about the making of the movie, and they both gave a lot of good insights. So I'm going to be showing moments from this podcast when it relates to something I'm talking about in this video. But if you guys have not listened to this episode, I recommend you do so because they say a lot of interesting stuff. And it's also just fascinating that they even made an episode about Fred Claus, because I feel like I don't see anyone talking about this movie today. So it's honestly perfect timing that I decided to make this video right after they released this episode. So I just wanted to add that in here. Now back to the video. So let me give you the rundown of this movie for those of you that don't know what it is. Fred Claus stars Vince Vaughn, and it is basically about what if Santa Claus had an older brother. So Vince Vaughn plays Fred Claus, the older brother to Santa Claus, played by Paul Giamatti. And just like Santa Claus, Fred is immortal too, as well as their parents. The movie gives like a half-assed explanation to this, but Santa, or as they refer to him in this movie, Nick, at one point in his life, he earned the title of saint, or he was gained sainthood. So that made like his body frozen in time, which means he ceases to age. But also the movie says that this sainthood like applies to his family as well. So that's why Fred is also immortal. I guess when he married Mrs. Claus, she also becomes immortal. I don't know. They don't really go that deep into it. But this begs a lot of questions because Fred does not live in the North Pole with his brother. He lives a normal life in America. So he's just this immortal man going through life. And no one really questions this. Like, you would think that he had friends at some point that were questioning why he never aged. Like, I don't know. But the movie never explores this at all. This is all just used as an excuse to have the movie take place in modern day. Now, Fred is jealous of his brother Nick because Nick is very successful. He's the Santa Claus. Everyone adores him. And Fred is just a loser at the start of this movie. And their parents heavily favor Nick. They don't even try to hide it. It is not a secret in the family that Nick is the favorite child. They constantly say to Fred, "Why can't you be more like your brother?"
Really, Frederick? Why can't you be more like your brother?
So that just tells you everything right there. But because of all this, Fred resents Nick. So by the time the movie starts in modern day, Fred and Nick don't really have a relationship. So after Fred gets arrested for conning money out of people and getting into a brawl with a bunch of guys dressed as Santa, he asks his brother to bail him out of jail, and his brother agrees. But on top of that, Fred also asks his brother for $50,000 because the whole reason why he was trying to con money out of people is because he wants to open up a casino. And so he needs $50,000 in order to do that. And so Nick, being the good brother that he is, he does bail his brother out, and he agrees to give him the $50,000 on one condition: that he comes to the North Pole and works for him. And this is because Fred has never visited Nick in the North Pole. So Fred agrees to do this, but at the same time, the North Pole is at risk of being shut down, putting the future of Christmas in jeopardy. The people threatening to shut this place down is known only as the Board.
You see, the Board is seriously considering shutting you down.
Who are the Board? We have no idea. We are never told. Who could possibly have authority over Santa? I don't know. God, maybe? Sure, maybe the Board is run by God. So the Board sends an efficiency expert, played by Kevin Spacey, to evaluate the North Pole and Santa's workshop, and he lets them know that he's going to run on a 3-strike system. But even the smallest mishap earns them a strike. And after 3 strikes, Santa's workshop gets shut down. And Christmas will be forever canceled. So you can imagine that having Fred at the North Pole during this time is terrible timing. So that's the basic premise of Fred Claus. If you've never seen it, I recommend that you give it a watch. You can watch it on Max right now. And it has a surprisingly good cast. I mean, we got Vince Vaughn, Paul Giamatti, Kathy Bates, John Michael Higgins, Elizabeth Banks, Rachel Weisz. Ludacris, of all people, is in this movie. He plays like this DJ elf. And even Jeffrey Dean Morgan makes a cameo in this movie for one scene. Now, the movie is not great. The elf VFX kinda suck, especially with Ludacris's character. The way they CGI his head onto the separate body, it just looks so bad. And a lot of the writing is stupid too, but I have fun with this movie. Like, for instance, there's this one scene where Fred goes to a meeting for this Brothers Anonymous group where they have other brothers of famous people. So like they got Stephen Baldwin there, and they got Frank Stallone, and they even have Bill Clinton's brother there. I don't even know if that's actually Bill Clinton's brother or if it's just an actor playing Bill Clinton's brother. And they all get mad at Fred when he starts saying that he's Santa Claus's brother. Like, they don't believe him. It's a ridiculous scene, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to such an absurdity. And it also grounds the world because it's an oddity that you're Santa's brother. Right. And so they bring that perspective of how crazy that is, you know, in the natural world to it, and it kind of helps solidify that reality.
This movie also can't decide if it's for kids or adults. So the jokes are all over the place. Like, one minute they'll have this like really childish humor in the movie, and then the next minute they're making an erectile dysfunction joke when Fred is like talking about his brother's inability to get hard. Like, it's so weird. It's so weird. Why are they doing this?
It is keeping him up all night, and it's affecting his health. Not to mention other aspects of our marriage.
Oh, ho, ho, and that.
So Santa's having a tough time getting the sleigh off the ground, huh?
I think something a lot of people don't know about this movie is that it was initially conceived as a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, when I got attached, when Vince got attached, it was a PG-13 movie.
So you guys got attached at basically the same time.
Yeah. The movie became more expensive than we wanted it to be. When they looked at the history of how much Christmas movies made, they were like, you have to be a PG movie.
Also, I'm a sucker for heartwarming scenes in movies, and this movie has a bunch of them. One scene that always gets me is when Fred tells Nick that there are no naughty kids in the world and that every kid deserves a present on Christmas.
There's no naughty kids, Nick. They're all good kids. Some of them are scared, and some of them don't feel listened to. Some of them had some pretty tough breaks, too. But every kid deserves a present on Christmas.
I know this message seems ignorant when you realize the fact that there are literally kids in the world who have murdered people before, but you're not supposed to think about that stuff. In the context of the movie, it makes sense because Fred is having this revelation because of this orphan kid named Sam, who he has become pretty much a father figure to. And at one point in the movie, Sam becomes the #1 kid on the naughty list. And Fred uses this magic globe, you know, to see why. And it's basically because he got into this fight at this orphanage because he was repeating what Fred has told him. So Fred kind of feels responsible. And also Fred knows that Sam is really a good kid at heart. So even though he's #1 on the naughty list, he still marks him as nice because that was one of his jobs in the movie. He had to be the guy to like mark kids as naughty and nice. And as a result of this thing with Sam, he just ends up marking every kid nice, regardless if they're on the naughty list or not. But I do like the message of most poorly behaved kids are not naughty. It's just the way they've been brought up, and maybe it's because of their parents, or maybe they're really having a tough time. Like, you don't really know what a lot of these kids are going through. So there could be a multitude of reasons for why they behave the way they behave. And what this movie is saying is like, you know, we shouldn't be putting these kids on a naughty list. Like, every kid deserves a present on Christmas. You know, kids deserve to know that there's someone out there looking out for them.
I mean, the idea of naughty and nice is a very old idea, and we know so much more about ourselves and how people are now, and we know why people misbehave.
Right.
So this idea that Fred is caught in a misunderstanding and he is being looked at and labeled as a naughty kid when he's a kid who needs some more attention and is having trouble growing and fitting into the world. We've all been naughty kids. We've all done things wrong.
Sure.
So all of a sudden, everyone who's watching that movie who relates to that has their story being told.
So that whole part of the movie, it really gets me right here. It gets me in the feels. It's truly what Christmas is all about. Speaking of kids on the naughty list, does anyone actually know a single kid who was gifted coal on Christmas for being naughty? Like, I don't know a single person who ever got coal for Christmas. I feel like that never happens because parents always want to believe that their child is good. So, like, why would there be parents that would give their kids coal? Like, I feel like you got to be a fucked up parent to give your kid coal for Christmas. But I don't know. Maybe there's someone out there who got coal as a kid. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you ever heard of that happening in real life. But anyway, I think I've said everything I wanted to say about Fred Claus. Again, I know this isn't a good movie. The writing is not great. There's tons of things in this movie that don't really make sense. But if you just turn your brain off and watch this movie for what it is and don't really think about anything, then you might actually enjoy it. I enjoy it. I like watching it. Like, yes, there's stupid scenes in this movie, but the heartwarming stuff and like the wholesome scenes do a lot for me, and like they still hit me in the feels. So like at the end of the day, I do enjoy this movie, and I do like watching it every Christmas. So when people ask me what my favorite Christmas movie is, I say 1, Die Hard, because it's one of the best action movies ever made and it is a Christmas movie, and 2, Fred Claus, because if we're just talking movies that are about Christmas, Fred Claus takes the cake, for me anyway. But anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite Christmas movie is. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Trying to get to 1,000 now. I hope everyone watching enjoys the rest of their holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and see you guys next time.